The night he knocked on the wrong door, everything felt just a little off, too quiet, too dark, and too still for a neighborhood that was usually alive with porch lights and late-night chatter. He wasn't supposed to be there. He'd taken a wrong turn while trying to deliver a package for a friend. A harmless mistake he'd laughed about just minutes earlier. But the moment he stepped onto that porch, something inside him tightened, a feeling he couldn't explain, like someone was watching him from behind the curtains. He knocked once, then again, and the door creaked open on its own, as if someone had been standing there just seconds before. His voice trembled as he called out, expecting a harmless explanation, maybe an elderly resident slow to answer. Instead, the heavy silence swallowed his words, pulling him deeper into a dread he didn't understand. Didn't he know that inside that house was evidence of a crime the police had been trying to solve for months, and that his innocent knock would trigger an investigation that would shake the entire town, exposing secrets people had buried for years? His mistake was simple, but the consequences were devastating. Ethan Marlowe had lived in Brookpine his whole life, and nothing ever happened there, nothing worth remembering, nothing worth fearing. But on that cold March evening, with rain tapping against his coat and fog crawling across the neighborhood, he walked up a driveway he thought belonged to his best friend. He was supposed to pick up a borrowed toolbox, return home, and end another ordinary day. But fate rarely announces its arrival. He knocked once, no answer. He knocked again, harder this time. Just as lightning split the sky behind him, the porch light flicked on, not warmly, suddenly. Violently, like someone had slapped the switch. Ethan froze. Something about the house felt wrong. The windows were covered with thick curtains. The mailbox overflowed with old letters. The welcome mat was half-soaked, like no one had stepped on it for days. Then the door cracked open. Only a couple of inches. A pair of frightened eyes stared back at him from the darkness. "Who are you?" a trembling voice whispered. Ethan stepped back, startled. "I'm sorry, I think I have the wrong house. I'm looking for my friend, Mark." "Don't say another word." The voice cut in, sharper this time. Ethan blinked. I'm really sorry. "I didn't mean to disturb. You need to leave," the woman behind the door whispered urgently. He could barely see her face. Only the outline of disheveled hair and shaking fingers gripping the doorframe. Ethan lifted his hands slowly. "Okay. I'm going," but she leaned closer, eyes wide with terror. "They'll hear you if you don't go now." Before Ethan could ask who they were, the door slammed shut hard enough to rattle the porch window. Ethan stood there in the swirling fog, stunned. The situation felt wrong. Not like an annoyed homeowner. More like someone in trouble. Someone desperate. Someone who needed help, but couldn't ask for it. Lightning flashed again, illuminating something he hadn't noticed. The front door had claw marks, long, desperate claw marks etched into the paint. Not from an animal, from human fingernails. Ethan's chest tightened, something deep inside him screamed that leaving was the worst possible choice. But fear pushed him back toward the street. As he hurried down the driveway, he looked once more at the house. The curtains shifted, as if someone was peeking out to make sure he left. He walked faster. The fog swallowed him. But 2 blocks later, guilt overtook fear. He turned around and looked back. Through the mist, the porch light flickered again, twice, like a signal. Or a plea. Ethan didn't know then, but that single knock, that tiny hesitation, that flicker of light was the moment Brookpine's quiet life ended. And the moment a case began that would shake the entire town. Ethan barely slept. The flashing porch light haunted him. The woman's shaking voice replayed in his mind like a warning he didn't know how to interpret. At 7 a.m., he finally decided he couldn't ignore it anymore. He drove back to the neighborhood. Fog was gone, replaced by a bitter cold calm. But this time, something was different. Police cars lined the street. Yellow tape fluttered around the house he'd knocked on. Officers moved in and out quickly, whispering to each other with tense, clipped voices. Ethan's stomach dropped. A tall officer stepped toward him. "Sir, this is an active scene. You need to stay back." Ethan swallowed hard. I was here last night. I knocked on that door. That changed everything." The officer's expression shifted. "Why, I thought it was my friend's place." "Wrong house." A woman answered. She seemed terrified. At the word terrified, the officer's eyes narrowed. "Describe her," Ethan tried. "Mid-30s maybe, pale, shaking." I couldn't see much. The officer exchanged a look with another detective. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The detective stepped closer. "Son, no one should have been inside this house." Ethan felt his blood run cold. "What do you mean?" "The Wilson family, husband, wife. And their 13-year-old daughter vanished 8 days ago. Neighbors reported not seeing a single light on since the day they disappeared." Ethan stepped back. "But I talked to someone last night." The detective's jaw tensed. "That's impossible." Ethan's voice cracked. "She told me to leave before they heard me. They." The detective repeated sharply. "They who? I don't know." Ethan whispered. "She sounded like she needed help." Officers entered the house again. Ethan's heart hammered. Then one of them shouted, "Detective, you need to see this." The detective disappeared inside. Moments later, he returned, face pale. What did you find?" Ethan asked. The detective hesitated, studying him carefully. "We found claw marks on the inside of the door, same size as a grown woman's, fresh, hours old." Ethan felt his knees weaken. "And there's more," the detective continued. "We found a message scratched under the dining table. Looked rushed, looked desperate. What did it say?" Ethan whispered. The detective's expression turned grim. "Don't knock again." Ethan's blood turned to ice. Last night, he had almost knocked a third time. Something told him if he had whatever was in that house wouldn't have let him leave. And the woman he saw, she wasn't supposed to be there or alive. The detective asked Ethan to come to the station. Not as a suspect, but as the only witness anyone had. Ethan sat in the cold interview room, hands trembling, replaying the moment the woman whispered, "They'll hear you." After an hour, Detective Rowan returned holding a USB drive. "We found a security camera inside the Wilson house," he said. "Hidden behind a vent." Ethan frowned. "A hidden camera? Set up by the family?" "No," Rowan said darkly, "placed by someone else. Someone who wanted to watch them. They connected the footage to a monitor. The screen flickered to life, a grainy view of the Wilson living room. At first, everything looked normal, then night footage replaced it. A figure entered the frame, not a stranger, but the father Daniel Wilson, moving rigid and mechanical, like someone not fully awake. Behind him, the mother appeared, her movements tight and unnatural. "What's wrong with them?" Ethan whispered. Rowan didn't answer. The footage continued. The family stood in the darkness, staring at the front door for almost 10 minutes straight. No blinking. No movement. Just watching. Then the daughter entered Lily. She looked terrified. She tried to step away, but her mother grabbed her arm tightly. "What are they looking at?" Ethan asked. Rowan paused the video. Ethan froze. "WH what?" Rowan nodded. Timestamp is from 1 week ago. The family disappeared that same night. The video ends here. Ethan felt the air leave his lungs. But I wasn't there a week ago, Rowan leaned forward. Exactly. Which means they weren't looking at you. They were looking at someone else who knocked on the door. And whatever happened to them that night, he took a breath, is connected to whoever that woman was you saw yesterday. Ethan felt his pulse pounding in his ears. So she's alive, he asked. We don't know, Rowan said. But we also don't know if she was ever one of the Wilsons. Ethan stared at the paused image. The Wilson family looked hypnotized, controlled, frozen in fear. Not acting on their own. Something else was happening in that house. And it was watching them. That night, Ethan couldn't stay home. Every shadow felt wrong. Every knock on every door seemed louder. He replayed the woman's voice again and again. They'll hear you. Who were they? And why was she still inside a house that had been abandoned for a week at midnight? Detective Rowan called. Ethan, we found something else. You need to come. Ethan rushed to the station. Rowan led him into a dim room where a map of the neighborhood was spread across a table. Your knock wasn't the first, Rowan said. There were reports from neighbors of someone knocking on random doors every night for the past week. Who? Ethan asked. We don't know. But every time someone opened their door, Rowan hesitated. Something happened. He pointed to a list. 6 addresses. 6 incidents. 6 people reporting strange behavior, sleepwalking, memory blackouts. Ethan felt sick. And the Wilsons, Rowan nodded. They opened their door too. Ethan sank into a chair. Someone or something had gone door to door. And Ethan had answered the wrong door. Why did the woman tell me to leave? He whispered. Rowan turned off the lights and clicked another video on screen. Security footage from a neighbor's porch. Timestamp, the exact night Ethan knocked. The footage showed Ethan standing at the door unaware that behind him, at the edge of the frame, a figure stood perfectly still in the fog. Tall, motionless, watching. Ethan stopped breathing. Who is that? He whispered. We don't know, Rowan said. It appeared only for 2 seconds. Right when you knocked, the screen zoomed in. The figure's face was blurred, but its head was tilted unnaturally, as if broken. That's who she meant, Ethan whispered. She wasn't afraid of me. She was afraid of them, Rowan nodded. And the Wilson family, Ethan asked. Rowan slowly exhaled. We found their bodies. Ethan's chest tightened painfully. They were inside the basement. Doors locked from the outside. They were gone for days. Ethan stared at the footage again, heart sinking. Then who spoke to me last night? Rowan looked at him for a long time. We don't know. But whoever or whatever opened that door wasn't supposed to be there. The sun had already started to set when the final pieces of the investigation came together, casting long shadows across the quiet neighborhood that had unknowingly become the center of one of the town's most unsettling mysteries. As the truth finally surfaced, people gathered outside their homes, talking in low voices. Still shaken by how something so simple, a knock on the wrong door, had unraveled a chain of events none of them could have imagined. The officer leading the case looked around at the faces of the residents. Some relieved, others haunted, all changed in some way. He knew the town would carry this story for years, a chilling reminder of how close danger can sometimes hide behind ordinary walls inside the station. The young man who had knocked on the wrong door sat quietly, staring at his hands. He never imagined that his one wrong turn would uncover secrets buried for years, secrets the entire town had been blind to. He had only been looking for directions, and instead, he stumbled straight into the center of a truth that demanded to be exposed. As investigators processed the final report, one of them placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You didn't cause this, she told him softly. You uncovered it, and she was right. His accidental knock had broken open a case that had gone cold long ago. Meanwhile, the family of the victim whose disappearance had once shaken the community finally had the answers they had prayed for. Their grief resurfaced. Robert mixed with a strange sense of closure, they stood outside the station, holding hands tightly. Whispering prayers for the justice that had finally come, the town watched them, realizing how deeply the tragedy had touched everyone. And as night settled in, people double-checked their locks and peered through their windows, understanding that sometimes the scariest stories begin with the most innocent actions. As the episode closes, the narrator's voice becomes soft, reflective, and warning: one wrong knock, one unexpected moment, and a town's hidden truth finally came to light. Some doors are opened by mistake, but some truths appear because they must. Then the screen fades to black before the final message appears. If you found this story gripping, mysterious, or unforgettable, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss another intense story like this one. Your support helps us bring more real-life mysteries, emotional tales, and dramatic true crime narratives every week. Thank you for watching.